Danke an die Runde. Wir setzen den Nachmittag fort mit dem zugegeben zweitwichtigsten Thema nach der Pressefreiheit. Aber eines, das zumindest die Kaufleute und auch die Führungskräfte in den Häusern mehr interessiert, nämlich wie erfinden wir uns ein Stück weit neu. Unser erster...
So, our next guest is going to give you a few pointers. He's from Kornhofer and is in charge of innovation. In the past 3 years, his publishing house has launched 3 new titles, which is quite unusual for the German market, and he has created a very concrete project in order to keep his team agile and flexible. The project is called Green Weeks. So executives from the publishing house start with a concrete project that is supposed to promote the sustainability of Kornhofer. We now have the CEO of Kornhofer, Mr. Stefan. Mr. Schäfer, executives are expensive. Their working time is very valuable. Why are you bringing them together for these little working groups? Well, we're a publishing house, so we finance creativity. That is the basic task of every publishing house. We need to promote creativity, and we achieve revenue in the traditional segments, but we also need new ideas and innovation. We are operating in saturated markets, and only by creating new products, new innovations, we can develop new business models. And this is why our executives were relieved from their duties for 2 or 3 weeks, and we asked them to find new paths, new avenues, create new things. And we believe that when people get together and discuss these innovations together, I think this is the way forward. I think everybody who is present here, and we have lots of executives here, we have lots of operative emails and all kinds of paperwork, so it is sometimes hard in your day-to-day business to be creative. So isn't it quite worrying that we need to have a separate structure for innovation? I mean, shouldn't we have already come to a point where we have this inherent in our organization? Well, I think everybody here is always faced with the problem that you will say, oh, if only I had more time, and we always speak about it in the subjunctive, we should have done, we could have, whatever. But I think after a couple of years, I was upset by always hearing about we could have, we should have, and I thought that we should show from the top level that we're always looking for new things, because I believe that the employees on their own do not take this initiative. So we have to set standards at the top of the corporate hierarchy. So we need to work also with new things and not only continue with business as usual. So very few organizations can do this. So this is why we need to be role models and have the courage to promote these things from the top. So the project was launched about a year ago. There were 20 editors-in-chief, some major leading brands among them. So some people may want to imitate this example. So how can you make sure that some people don't say, no, I can't make it this time because I have a big relaunch or whatever, and then there's attrition? Well, I believe that you have to act as a role model. So the leadership needs to put a high level of priority on innovation. You have to provide people with the time and the budget, bring people together to ask for this innovation to happen. And you need to preach innovation. That's one thing. But what's decisive is that you need to have the courage to actually implement these projects, because it is only through the implementation of these ideas that your colleagues come up with. Only then will they see that you are serious about innovation. And we came up with 30 new titles, and we did a lot of other things. And that goes to show to our colleagues that we are serious about innovation and that we endow ideas with budgets. So the innovation of structure is supposed to lead to new products being launched. Now, as journalists, I have to ask how many new projects materialized. Well, last year alone, when we took the time, And I believe that there's one thing that you need to bear in mind. You can't just put pressure on people and say, well, if you don't have any success, then this project will fail. I think that simply by getting people together around the same table helps a lot. And our outcome can be clearly measured, because we agreed among the top executives that we should focus more on personality magazines. So after the innovation of Barbara, we thought, should we have more of that? Well, there are people from abroad as well. So this is a magazine of a well-known German entertainer who's always on the cover, let's say a star in Germany, a celebrity, and it's published 10 times a year. It's quite a success. And there are some in Germany who have also set up other personality magazines. Yes, and in June, there will be our first restaurant called Beef in Frankfurt. So food brands, for example, can we operate restaurants? Together with Mövenpick, we're going to open our first restaurant in June in Frankfurt. And at Brigitte, there will be a new academy where women will be promoted and trained. I think our colleagues from the Handelsblatt are role models. They create events and clubs. And we believe that with the brand Brigitte, we have a lot to contribute for women. So all of these projects couldn't have materialized if we hadn't taken the time to implement them. I think it would always have been just an idea. Oh, we ought to open a restaurant or do a new magazine or whatever. So without setting this time aside to reflect on it, we couldn't have done it. Yes, failing is also included in the plan, yeah. And I just got back from Israel. They always said that failure is an option. That's the first thing that they say. I think in Germany, well, it sounds modern if you say we have to be allowed to fail. But when you stop some titles or stop some projects, well, it's still considered to be a failure, but we want to move away from that. So if you set up new things, if you create new things, of course, many things will fail. In the startup world, we find this great, but in traditional publishing houses, we consider it a failure. Well, Michael Jordan said 100% of the throws that I didn't make were a failure. So after 5 years, I think we are making huge progress. Well, you said you have to be a role model from the top. Well, there are also smaller, specialized publishers. If I want to start on that avenue, what are the obstacles? Where are the problems, the obstacles that we need to overcome? I think sometimes we don't believe ourselves that we can discover new things. Often I see in publishing that if you pay close attention, you may think that, well, our time and our day and age is over. There's nothing to be had, no easy wins, and things are just going to go down the drain. I think you have to believe in success. You have to believe that you can create new things. Together with JWD, we're trying to position a new magazine. This, of course, may fail, but if there's no offer left, then, well, I think that is bound to fail. So if you don't really deeply believe that you can create new things, you can't. I think you want to roll out this program, right? Expand it. How can you create an incentive for employees to play along? I know your greenhouse, which is an innovation lab where people can contribute ideas. And I was quite surprised to hear that Grun und Jahr said, thank you for the great ideas, but as an employee, you're not, well, entitled to any bonus or participation. You can become a head of the new project maybe, but actually they don't really have a great incentive to do something new. And you also said we have to create this culture where you're allowed to fail, but shouldn't we also give people a monetary, a fiscal incentive? And not just to boost their career, but to also give them a financial incentive. Well, you don't know our incentive schemes, and we shouldn't discuss them here, I guess. We have to get used to being managers and employees, and if you want to set up a company yourself, of course, you're free to do so. There are certain rules of the game, and there's all kinds of models. And this is why I'd like to focus on the factual level, because creative people are enthusiastic about starting from scratch. And I think it's not only the financial incentive, but you have to give people the feeling that they can have a Stern Prime, they can develop, or Neon, or whatever. So if you give people the opportunity to do things from scratch and develop something entirely new, that's a lot of motivation right there. So I believe that creativity requires motivation and not so much a financial incentive. But what did you learn about this process? You're one level above that role, right? You're also cooperating with the executives, and you also discover new projects, right? So when you ask your employees, and when you don't have the impression that the best ones are always abroad or somewhere else, often one door down, there's somebody who's got really great ideas. These people may be excellent, and sometimes it is easier to find a solution nearby rather than traveling far away. So the answer is not always necessarily in Silicon Valley. It can be right in your neighborhood. So listen to your colleagues, ask them what they want to do, and that's what I learned. Our colleagues often know a lot. You just need to give them credit and give them a forum, a platform where they can realize their ideas. You're working in a large corporation with ever flatter hierarchies, but there are still some levels of hierarchy. I can still feel that. So when there's a competition of the best ideas, it can no longer be the case that the one with the highest position, the highest rank, and the loudest voice will prevail. So how important is it for these hierarchies to be disrupted? Well, it is decisive. This entire process of change, of course, may sound easy, but it takes a very long time and takes a lot of confidence and trust. But it is up to the leaders how you want to manage such a company. And if you have the impression that you can take any idea to anybody without being laughed at, then I believe that that helps a lot, if we can develop this culture together. And then when you create a lot of new things, your colleagues will see that you're really, really serious about it. And in the final analysis, this is the best proof. More projects, of course, have to succeed rather than fail. That creates a lot of trust. That's the second level. If the boss isn't there, then you need to organize the team without the boss. I know that in America or in Anglo-Saxon countries where the hierarchies are flatter, well, it's different. But here, if the boss is gone, then the employees will just go party. So what was the impact on the rest of the team if the boss isn't there? Well, I think it depends on the boss. The Handelsblatt, for example, well, if the two are absent, if the paper would just collapse because everybody went partying, well, I think it doesn't work that way. So the more appreciation people get, the more motivated it will be. And when we left the company, we didn't monitor what they did during the day. So I think they continue to do an incredibly good job because they wanted to show everybody what they can do. And who will decide on what headline is better tomorrow and which one is worse? I think there isn't one single individual who can take all of these decisions. And we are asking our executives today to do so many things. And I believe that creating some leeway for them is a great gift. Grunenjahr works without you being there. Yes, it should work without me being there, and I hope that when I'm there that I don't disturb people in their work. But I would love to be sure that things work perfectly when I'm not there. Yes, that's the difference. We don't mind disturbing sometimes. Well, we talked a lot about innovation. What's next on your list? What are your plans? I think we have to deliver some news to our colleagues. Well, there's one thing that is definitely new. So like you said, We have the genre of personality magazines. That's not a PR gag or advertising gimmick. The belief that personalities have subjectiveness and they have a certain community. And if you couple this with journalistic skills, if you follow these people, then, well, of course, this can only be successful. We did it with Barbara. This is one of the best women's magazines in this segment. And Eckhard von Hirschhausen, together with him, we launched the Health magazine. And we sold the first edition more than 200,000 times. Together with Joko Winterscheid, we tried to develop the young males as a target group. And tomorrow we're going to announce that together with Guido Maria Kretschmer, we have the fourth new project this year. So I think that's great that we have so many new and interesting people we're going to work with, and how our editorial departments have adjusted to this cooperation, and both sides benefit. What is the title? What's the circulation, the frequency? Well, I won't tell you all that. We know that we're going to go for this project. I don't know what it's going to be called. I know that it's going to be at least a monthly publication, and we're going to start in autumn. Well, the interview has been a lot of fun, but actually I'm used to more information from Westphalia. Well, but you're also used to modesty from our side. And what should I announce if it's not done yet? Well, I have another 17 questions on the list, but we have to carry on. So a big applause for Stefan Schäfer from Gruner + Jahr.